Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a topic that feels, well, incredibly current, really, no matter the era. What does it truly mean to live with uncompromising honesty, especially in a world that, let's face it, often seems dominated by corruption and relentless ambition? We're going to unpack some truly fascinating material today about a figure from ancient Rome who really, against all odds, stood as this kind of beacon of integrity. Our sources paint a pretty vivid picture of a man who, yeah, at great personal cost, embodied this very ideal. We're talking about Publius Rutilius Rufus.
That's him, often celebrated as the last honest man in Rome. Quite a reputation.
Isn't it just?
Indeed. And this deep dive will illuminate his life, the unwavering Stoic principles that really guided him, and the political landscape he had to navigate, which, as our sources show, was, let's just say, Roman politics could be as murky and Machiavellian back then as anything we might see today.
You're kidding.
It's a study in contrasts, really. Mark Twain once observed how an honest man in politics shines more than he would elsewhere. And Rufus, well, he's certainly shone brilliantly.
Okay, so what's our mission today for you, our listener? We're going to try and extract the core insights from Rufus's extraordinary journey. Understanding the unique code he lived by, the powerful enemies he inadvertently made just by trying to do the right thing, and the profound, quiet legacy of his fierce honesty. Let's start at the beginning, then. Publius Rutilius Rufus, born 158 BC, died 78 BC, a Roman through and through.
Right. From an illustrious family, too. His early life, it definitely seemed set up for success.
So what do we know about his early influences?
Well, he actually studied philosophy under Panatius. Panatius was a really distinguished Stoic who'd returned to Rome around 138 BC.
Okay, so philosophy was there early on.
Definitely. And he also got practical experience, served on Scipio Aemilianus' staff as a military tribune during the Numantine War. That was a tough conflict.
And his character, what do the sources say?
They paint him as, well, somber. Severe, even, but incredibly well-read, impeccably trained. Cicero, maybe a bit unfairly, critiqued his speaking style, his eloquence.
Oh.
Yeah, but others described him as an acute and systematic speaker. So maybe not flashy, but sharp.
And the Stoicism, you mentioned Panatius. Was it a core part of them?
Oh, absolutely undeniable. The material we've looked at makes that crystal clear. Cicero himself noted that the self-sufficiency of his philosophy was exemplified in him in its firmest and most unswerving form.
Wow. That's quite the statement. That's someone really living their principles, not just talking about them.
Exactly. And we see the first real sign that Rufus was operating differently, by a different code, back in 115 BC.
What happened then?
He was up for consul, but he was defeated by Marcus Aemilius Scaurus. And Scaurus, well, he quite overtly bribed his way into office.
Okay, standard Roman politics for some, maybe.
Perhaps. But Rufus did something remarkable. He conspicuously refused to engage in bribery himself, basically ensuring his own defeat.
He wouldn't play the game.
He wouldn't. And what's more, instead of just, shrugging it off, he took a really bold step. He brought ambitious charges. That's the Roman term for political corruption, bribery against Scaurus.
Wow, okay.
But then, get this in a truly ironic twist, Scaurus, the guy who did the bribing, turns around and brings the exact same charges against Rufus.
You're kidding?
Nope. Neither trial really went anywhere conclusive, but it definitely foreshadowed the kind of political battles Rufus was going to face. It showed what he was up against.
Yeah, setting the stage. So moving forward, he finds himself in the Jugurthine War era.
Right. A really tumultuous period. And he's caught in the crossfire, politically speaking, between these incredibly ambitious and, frankly, often unscrupulous figures like Sulla, the conservative strongman, and, crucially, Gaius Marius.
Gaius Marius. Okay, he sounds important in this story. Tell us about him.
Hugely important. Marius actually started his military career under Scipio Aemilianus, same time as Rufus. But Marius was different. He was a novus homo.
A new man, meaning?
Meaning, he wasn't from the traditional senatorial aristocracy. He came from the equestrian rank, wealthy, influential, but outside that old elite circle.
Ah, okay. An outsider who made it big.
Extremely big. He ended up holding a record 7 consulships. There was this story he liked to tell about an omen, an eagle's nest with 7 young eagles, foretelling it.
7 consulships? That's unprecedented.
It really was. And for a time, surprisingly, Rufus and Marius were actually allies.
Really? Given where this seems to be heading.
Yeah, it's a twist. During a big army expansion, Rufus was put in charge of Rome's training and deployment strategy for all these new, diverse troops. And our sources say Marius actually preferred to fight only with troops trained by Rufus.
Why was that?
because they were simply the best trained, the most disciplined, and the bravest. Rufus knew how to build an effective force.
Okay, so here's where that Stoic discipline perhaps pays off in a practical sense.
Exactly. And this highlights something really crucial that the sources point to, kind of a double-edged sword with Rufus's Stoicism. Well, it made him exceptionally capable, meticulous, great at his job, like training troops. If you wanted something done right, honestly, diligently, there was no one better than a Stoic like Rufus.
Right. Makes sense.
But if you wanted someone to look the other way, to maybe bend the rules, help you with your own shady dealings or corruption.
Then a Stoic is the last person you'd want.
Precisely. There was nobody worse for that. And that was inevitably going to put him on a collision course with someone like Marius.
Okay, I see it now. The conflict feels almost baked in.
It does. And Marius, we need to remember, was incredibly popular with the masses. He famously lived and ate alongside his troops, really cultivated that image.
Didn't he also change army requirements?
He did. He dropped the property requirement for service, opened the army up to far more people, the landless poor. Hugely popular move.
And militarily successful too, right? Despite being maybe ruthless.
Oh, absolutely. Brutal even. He slaughtered something like 120,000 Cimbri invaders in 101 BC, hailed as the third founder of Rome for saving the city. A massive figure.
So powerful, popular, ruthless, not someone you want as an enemy. But Rufus still clashed with him.
He did. And the first direct conflict wasn't about military tactics or even popularity, really. It was much simpler, much more fundamental for Rufus.
Oh, was it?
Elections. Rufus firmly believed Marius had bribed his way to one of his consulships, paying off debts, buying votes outright.
And Rufus couldn't let that slide?
Not a chance. He openly questioned it.
Oh.
Asked, what was the point of having elections if they were going to be fraudulent? He basically followed that principle. See something, say something.
Even against Marius?
Even against the hugely popular, powerful Marius. And in doing that, he made an enemy. A very powerful and very unforgiving enemy.
Yeah, you don't cross someone like Marius lately.
Definitely not. And that animosity, it just festered. Marius later faced political trouble. His popularity dipped, tensions flared up, and he was even forced into temporary exile.
Exile.
Yeah. And Plutarch suggests that during this exile, Marius actually tried to incite Mithridates, a king in the east, to wage war against Rome.
Why would he do that?
The thinking, apparently, was that a major war would force the Senate to recall him, needing his military leadership. It shows the lengths he might go to. It was just a time of intense intrigue, political violence, corruption was rampant.
A dangerous time to be principled.
Extremely. And, even if Rufus hadn't directly clashed with Marius over that election, his basic nature, his meticulous honesty, his stoic sense of duty, it probably meant he was always going to become a target eventually.
Because he just wouldn't play the game.
Exactly. He wasn't just known for his disciplined troops. He was also pushing for significant reforms back in Rome.
What kind of reforms?
Well, he tackled bankruptcy law. Indebtedness was a huge problem. And crucially for what happened next, he started trying to protect the people in the provinces, specifically the Greeks in Asia Minor.
Protect them from what?
From the publicani. These were the private tax collectors, mostly from that wealthy equestrian class, Marius's class in a way. They bid for the right to collect taxes in a province and then basically squeeze the locals for every penny they could, often far beyond what was owed. It was systemic extortion.
And Rufus tried to stop this.
He did. He initiated reforms to curb their gouging, which of course put him directly on a collision course with some very wealthy, very powerful interests. He was advocating reforms at the expense of the rich.
Not a popular position with the rich, I imagine.
Not at all. And then comes that really old, cynical trick we still see today.
Which is?
Accuse the honest man of precisely the opposite of what they're doing. Accuse them of the very sin you yourself are committing. Use their reputation against them. Muddy the waters. Smear them with lies.
Turn their strength into a weakness.
Perfectly put. So Rufus, a guy who had actually prosecuted corruption cases himself, now found himself brought up on false charges.
And the charge was? Don't tell me.
Extortion. He was accused of extorting the very people in Asia Minor he was trying to protect.
By the people who are extorting them?
By the very publicani whose abuses he was trying to stop. It didn't help, apparently, that some of his own writings had been critical of the greed he saw among certain groups. They twisted that, too.
So the deck was completely stacked against him?
Completely. The jury was packed, almost certainly with equestrians sympathetic to the publicani. And Marius. He was operating behind the scenes, pushing the prosecution.
Why Marius? Just because Rufus was an obstacle.
That seems to be the core of it. The historian Dio Cassius wrote that Rufus's excellence and good repute had been an annoyance to Marius. Rufus was like a mirror, a walking condemnation of the corruption Marius and his allies represented, or at least tolerated. He made them look bad just by existing.
So what did Rufus do? Faced with these false charges, a stacked jury.
He made a powerful, maybe tragic choice. Knowing he was innocent, he essentially declined to mount a defense in the way people expected. He refused to call powerful allies to speak for him, refused to engage in emotional appeals. He basically stood silent.
Silent?
Largely, yes. Cicero later observed it wasn't just Rufus's silence, but even his defense team's silence that was notable. Cicero joked they must have been afraid of getting reported to the Stoics if they got too worked up or impassioned defending him.
Wow. A sort of principled Stoic non-defense.
You could see it that way. A very noble stance, maybe echoing someone like Socrates or Martin Luther later saying, "Here I stand, I can do no other." A conviction in his own innocence so profound he wouldn't deign to fight the lies on their level.
But noble stances don't always win in corrupt courts.
No, they don't. It allowed his enemies to make quick work of him. The verdict was guilty, of course, and the penalty was enormous, a fine far beyond anything Rufus could possibly pay.
So they ruined him financially.
And socially. His property was seized, he was exiled from Rome.
Exile! A common fate for political losers in Rome.
It was. And his removal, conveniently for Marius and his faction, stopped Rufus from getting in the way of Marius's looting of Rome, as one source puts it. It also removed this uncomfortable, ethical man whose mere existence embarrassed the rising criminal class.
Just silencing the inconveniently honest man.
Pretty much. But here's a fascinating detail. Even as they delivered this devastating blow, his enemies offered him one small dignity. Or perhaps it was a final cynical twist.
What was that?
They let him choose the place of his exile.
Okay. Where did he choose?
With what our sources describe as stone-hard determination, Rufus chose Smyrna.
Smyrna. Wait, isn't that the city in Asia Minor?
The very city he had allegedly defrauded.
That's incredible. He went straight to the place they accused him of robbing.
He did, and the people of Smyrna.
Right.
They knew the truth. They were incredibly grateful for his actual reforms and his honesty. They welcomed him with open arms, even offered him citizenship. It completely undercut the premise of the trial back in Rome.
So exile wasn't the end for him?
Far from it, in some ways. Suetonius tells us he settled there, lived with a scholar named Publius Rutilius, an Epicurean freedman who taught philosophy, rhetoric, grammar. He found intellectual company.
And Cicero visited him there?
Yes, in 78 BC, not long before Rufus died, Cicero called him a pattern of virtue, of old-time honor, and of wisdom. High praise from Cicero.
Was he bitter, though? I mean, losing everything, being exiled on false charges.
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But the reports all say no. Apparently, his personal fortune actually grew in exile. Gifts poured in from admirers who respected him.
Really?
Yeah, and there's this famous story. A friend expressed hope that the ongoing civil war back in Rome might lead to Rufus's recall.
And Rufus said,
He replied, "What sin have I committed that you should wish me a more unhappy return than departure? I should much prefer to have my country blush for my exile than weep at my return."
wow. He'd rather Rome felt shame for exiling him than pity for his return under violent circumstances.
Exactly. A profound statement of principle, even in exile. He stayed in Smyrna. He wrote his history of Rome, interestingly, in Greek.
And when Sulla, who eventually defeated Marius and became dictator, invited him back.
Sulla did invite him back, yes.
Yeah.
But Rufus politely declined. He just stayed put, working, living his life, his spirit apparently unbroken.
What was the reaction among other Stoics to how he was treated?
Reports say they were livid,
Mm-hmm.
utterly outraged. It was a stark, painful lesson for them, wasn't it? That doing the right thing, living by your principles, could literally cost you everything.
Yeah. And it stands out because, as you said, corruption was common.
It really does. Our sources emphasize this contrast. Almost all the other major figures accused of corruption during this incredibly turbulent period were, unlike Rufus, actually guilty. He was the exception.
The truly honest man caught in the gears.
Precisely. Seneca, writing much later, lamented this kind of thing. He said, "When good men come to bad ends, one cannot help being grieved that fortune pays her rewards so unjustly."
It feels unjust, doesn't it? But then here's the crucial question, maybe for you listening. Looking back, who would you rather be?
That's the core of it, isn't it?
There's a cost to cheating, to corruption. Even if you get away with it externally, there's an internal cost. Would you rather end up like Rufus, maybe ruined externally but with your head high, as one source puts it? or live like his accusers, perhaps wealthy and powerful, but in denial of your own undeniable shame.
It's a powerful choice to contemplate. And this whole period, this turmoil Rufus lived through, the historian Mike Duncan aptly called it the storm before the storm. The Republic was tearing itself apart, paving the way for figures like Julius Caesar.
And in the midst of that gathering storm, Rufus just stood his ground.
He let his light shine, as the saying goes. He suffered immensely, yes. But nothing suggests he ever questioned whether maintaining his integrity was worth it.
He knew what he controlled.
Exactly. Like Marcus Aurelius would later write about, you control your character, your response, your inner state. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, famously said something like, you can lay violent hands on me, but my mind will remain committed to philosophy. You can hurt my body, but not my principles.
And Rufus didn't just believe that, he lived it under incredible pressure.
Think about it. He had to stand there while they brought up these trumped-up charges,
Wow.
while they soiled his reputation, stole his property, sent him away from the country he loved.
Humiliating. Devastating.
Absolutely. And yet, under all that pressure, he did not crack. He did not compromise. He did not bend the knee. He must have known they were implicit offers, ways out. If he just dropped his pesky objections, looked the other way, played the game.
But he refused.
He refused. Publius Rutilius Rufus was, uncompromisingly it seems, the last honest man in Rome. And his example, his story, well, it still calls down to us today, doesn't it?
It really does. So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, listening?
I think Rufus's story is just this powerful testament to the enduring strengths of personal integrity. Even when the system, the world around you, doesn't reward it, even when it actively punishes it. He chose his character over convenience, didn't he? His truth over public acclaim or personal gain.
And it raises that fundamental question for all of us, really. In a world that often does seem to reward compromise and punish principle, what's the real measure of a person's legacy? Is it the power, the wealth, the accolades they pile up, or is it that unwavering ethical stance they maintain, regardless of the personal cost?
Publius Rutilius Rufus, he didn't just talk the talk, he walked the walk, even when that walk led him right out of Rome into exile and to loss. His story reminds us that, yeah, maybe virtue doesn't always bring those earthly rewards we might expect, but it can bring something else, something maybe far more valuable.
Like what?
Like an unshakable inner peace, knowing you did the right thing, and, well, a truly honorable place in history, even if it's a quiet one sometimes. And that you is definitely a deep dive worth reflecting on. How might his example, his steadfastness, resonate in your own life? Or in the challenges you see around you today?
Something to think about. Until next time, keep digging, keep questioning, and keep shining your own light.